So the English release of Pokemon 151 is set to happen next week. So on the 22nd of September, I believe, is going to be the first release. And then on the 6th of October, we are going to start seeing those UPCs being shipped out. And I just wanted to kind of discuss some thoughts. I made a video a couple of weeks ago talking about 151 generally, comparing the English release to the Japanese release and just talking about just the differences between the two, how the English release should impact or might impact the Japanese product. Went into a little bit of a longer discussion kind of talking about how generally when English product comes out, the Japanese product tends to go down in price as the hype or the I guess the attention moves towards the English product. So in that I just wanted to, I guess, continue from where I left off there, given that we are a lot closer to the release of well, closer to next week, to the 22nd, and there's a few things we've seen in the meantime. The main ones being we've seen a lot of people opening up products already, so obviously people have received the product. Pokemon are like well ahead of schedule, getting the product out to the right people, to the stores, to distributors, and then to the stores, of course. So we've seen a few people already opening product on YouTube. So I watched a couple of people. I watched Danny Phantom, and I also watched Pokerev as well open up those packs. And there was a little bit of kind of conflicting opinions from those, or at least I think Danny Phantom complained that didn't seem to pack anything relatively good, whereas Pokerev opened a case of ETBs and did interestingly well. I think certainly worth checking those two videos out before I kind of if you wanted to watch this before I spoil it, because I'm going to talk about it a little bit more now. But yeah, Pokerev packs a ridiculous number of Charizard EXs, but generally, like, I guess there's no other, or not too many other amazing pulls, some full arts. But yeah, a bit, as I said, a bit of a kind of conflicting views there, with one saying, or one showing not too good pulls, and the latter with Pokerev pulling a lot of good cards. Obviously, we're talking about a special set here, so we generally do expect pretty good pulls. You've obviously got the opportunity to pull in multiple slots, and then you can effectively get 3 ultra rares, anything ultra rare, like a V-Star, sorry, not V-Star, it's the EX. Oh god, we're not selling Sword and Shield, but like the EX full art, just the regular ultra rare half arts, or some kind of a special illustration rare. So there's much more opportunity. Obviously, we had a similar thing with training gallery cards and other special sets before in Sword and Shield. But generally, I guess the thing about these special sets is they are just so much fun to open. I've kind of gone on and on about how I really enjoy opening up special sets more than anything, and I think that's a shared sentiment amongst a lot of people. There are a lot of sets over the last couple of years that have just been kind of ball breakers, I guess. When opening them, things like Chilling Reign or Fusion Strike. Obviously, we had the whole debacle with all the missing, or the stolen secret rares, and all those crazy cards that were stolen from Fusion Strike. And then Astral Radiance was probably the worst of the lot, where it was just ridiculously hard to pull anything good, and that resulted in the set, amongst other things, of course, doing particularly badly. So there is a certain expectation with those specialty sets that the pull rates are going to be pretty good. You're going to have a really good experience opening them, and that's why, as I said, if I open any product, it's usually those. If I complete any binder sets, it's usually those. Starting from like Hidden Fates, Shining Fates, all the way up until most recently, of course, Crown Zenith, and certainly 151. I've got a binder pretty much ready to go already. I'm still working on the Crown Zenith, of course, but yeah, certainly one that I'm going to start and hopefully get the binder collection put together, or the set complete eventually. So it is really important, of course, that these specialty sets do have that enjoyment, that experience of getting a lot of pulls. They might not necessarily be the most valuable and best pulls in the set, but the fact that you are getting something over nothing does make a pretty big difference psychologically, right? And when you open these, even if let's not even think about modern sets, right? If we go all the way back to kind of semi-vintage, things like Black and White, Diamond and Pearl, and earlier, where we're getting into the era of things beyond just the holos that we saw in the first couple of eras, and what you would usually get, like maybe 1 or 2 EXs in a box in black and white, and maybe like 6 to maybe, I think you're probably lucky if you've got six actual ultra rare pulls. Obviously got lots of holos, but actual ultra rares you're probably very much limited, whereas now we are pretty spoiled for choice. We do have a lot of availability when it comes to that. The sets are of course a lot bigger than they used to be too, which naturally means that either you give people more pulls to kind of keep the prices down that way, or you just reduce the size of the sets, which they have obviously not done. They've gone in the opposite direction, and the sets obviously get larger and larger, so they pretty much, I guess they're forced to just increase the pull rate just to make the kind of collectability in that sense a little bit easier. So yeah, that expectation that the pack should be pretty giving, and not pretty Scrooge-like or frugal like Astral Radiance was, and I think that's going to certainly impact how the set is perceived. As I said, Astral Radiance for me is the biggest example when it comes to that. Just the most awful set to open. I opened some product recently and actually didn't do too badly, but I opened some blisters, whereas I have opened up booster boxes before, and sure, you are guaranteed when it comes to booster box opening, but it just felt like this set was really struggling to give you anything good. And if you open it, basically, you open random packs, you're basically not, you're not really expecting anything. And so as of right now, I think the expectation with 151, obviously I mentioned Danny Phantom complaining, or at least from his video, you could see that he didn't necessarily get too much, or maybe his expectations were too high. Maybe he just got an off box, which seems to be the case given what I've seen from a lot of other people. But that sentiment, as I said, is going to make a big difference to how the set is perceived, and then obviously how that's going to affect the price of the product itself. We've had examples before as well. If you think about Battle Styles, I don't think necessarily that it certainly was one of the worst sets from Sword and Shield in terms of pull rates, but also it did introduce Altards properly in Sword and Shield. But again, if I do recall correctly, Battle Styles was a bit of a bitch, I guess, to open, similar to Astral Radiance, and that's exactly, well, it's, as I said, one of the multitude of reasons as to why those particular sets just don't do too well. There's probably not so much interest in opening them. At the same time, there's a lot of people with most recently, it's not something I saw as much when the set first came out. When Evolving Skies first came out, it seemed like it was a good set to open. It was a lot of fun. You get a few hits, but maybe it's just because it's become I guess an Umbreon VMAX or bust kind of opening now. But generally, when I see people on posting on Instagram, on Reddit, obviously that's why they know the set now has the moniker, the nickname of Evolving Cries, and not Evolving Skies, given that it seems like right now it's been pretty tough. A lot of that did certainly, I believe, change with from wave to wave. As I said at the beginning, that certainly was not the case. I don't recall it being anywhere near as difficult as it seems to be now, and it's likely maybe that the second and third waves, those reprints, that when they came out, they obviously messed with the distribution of the secret rares and the full arts and stuff throughout those newer printing waves. So obviously I've gone into some probably too much detail about kind of the opening and experience, but as I said, it does make a pretty big difference with the set moving forwards. As of right now, it seems like there's a decent amount of products available. Obviously, as I said, Pokemon again have done a good job getting that product out already up until now. I spoke, or at least communicated with my distributor recently, and what has happened sometimes recently is if some sets have been really popular, and this is not necessarily Pokemon, this is actually Yu-Gi-Oh! And One Piece, where unfortunately I did miss out on my allocations because the sets were just too popular and there wasn't enough product available. Again, not Pokemon, of course, because I just don't. Yeah, those other TCGs are not printing as much as Pokemon because they don't need to, and they really shouldn't, because they're not the mammoth that Pokemon TCG is. But I'm not a big sealed product guy. I don't order a lot of product from distributor. Like, I assume I'm not pretty far down the list. Sure, I have a good relationship, and that's not necessarily a problem with them, but yeah, I'm not ordering tons and tons of product just because I'm not a sealed product guy. I don't enjoy the downsides of sealed product compared to the other things you can do, grading and single cards, collections, and so on and so forth. So for me personally, I'm very minimal with the amount of sealed product that I buy from distributor. Obviously different sources of sealed product, buying from the open market, for example, different story. But it seems like there's enough product to go around, so we're not going to struggle for that. And it's also meant that at this point we are a few days from release. I think by the time this video actually goes out, it might actually be the release date itself. But we're not going to struggle to get the product, meaning that we've got to the point just before release. The prices are pretty much they're not like Scarlet and Violet booster boxes so far price, where they're like basically the floor and you're not really getting it much more expensive. You're not paying too much more than you would be if you were buying directly from distributor. We're probably just slightly above that, maybe a little bit above RRP, particularly for the UPCs. I noticed, not so much for the other products. So that's certainly a good thing, indicative of a decent amount of demand for the product, and not a lack of supply, which is causing that price to, of course, boom, rather than it being kind of stable just around retail, just above retail, as I mentioned. So all positive news, certainly in that sense. There was also somebody on Whatnot, I think, or on eBay Live or Instagram, one of these live streaming thing services. They in fact actually opened a god pack. It wasn't the god pack in the style that the Japanese special sets have god packs, those high class sets where they have every single card in the pack is an ultra rare or above. But the pack that I saw, it was the first few cards were just the random commons, uncommons, whatever they were, reverse hollows, and then the opener received a Charmander, Charmeleon, and the Charizard, the special illustration rares of those. So like the Charmander, the Charmeleon, and then the Charizard EX, the kind of main Charizard EX card. So that's we already know that the English product is not going to get the Master Balls, and that was disappointing for a lot of people, myself included, because as I said in my previous video, it certainly removes a layer of collectability for me and for many other people. There were a lot of people complaining about it, but something, having the god packs, again, this has not been confirmed, I believe, by anyone beyond this guy. I'm sure a few other people have, but like not someone who's going to create enough waves where the average person like myself is going to come across it. So we can still maybe hope that is the case, and there weren't some shenanigans. Not to say that person was up to anything, or maybe it was just a pack that wasn't necessarily maybe put together properly during the processing, however that happens. But we'll wait and see. But as I said, yeah, good signs across the board. One thing I certainly have been hesitant again, and I like to talk about a decent amount, is the fact that because they are printing so much product, that product is naturally going to be of a lower quality, and this is going to be most exacerbated at the beginning when they're printing as much product as they can for release. And if you manage to get your hands on product later down the line, and singles later down the line, you're likely to get them in better condition than you are at the beginning. Personal choice, I guess. At the end of the day, when you do have a booster box, and for some reason 10 years down the line you've got this booster box, whether it be like an Obsidian Flames or a 151 UPC, no one's really going to know whether it's a first print or a second print or a third print, whatever wave it came in, and no one's going to really know the condition of the cards before. It's more about how you want to collect the cards. It's maybe more about the singles, and when's a good time to pick up the singles, rather than necessarily picking up the sealed product. Or again, it's just you want to enjoy opening up the product, and one way of fulfilling that enjoyment is to pull cards that are in great condition, maybe the ones that you want to go ahead and grade. I certainly enjoy doing that. A lot of the cards that I pack and grade myself, I don't even sell, even if they're not necessarily cards that I want and collect. but I really am hesitant when it comes to selling graded cards, especially if they're 10s, of cards that I pack pulled myself, cards that I pulled on a YouTube video, for example. There's just so much, I've got too much investment in that, regardless of the price or the value of that card. Because, you know, someone offered me thousands for a random full art that I pulled and graded in a 10. I'm not going to say no, but obviously there's a certain investment I have in that, emotional investment I have in that, which means I'm not really going to sell that. So for those who like doing that, like myself included, opening up some product at the beginning and taking the good cards and grading them, maybe that's going to be a bit of a pain. I know there's a lot of people who are limited with the amount of funds that they have and that they can spend naturally. I mean, nothing to kind of look down upon or not be afraid to admit, I guess, a weird way of putting it. But generally, like, look, if you say I'm going to open 1 or 2 boxes and those 2 boxes are just full of cards with whitening in it, it's just not going to be as nice an experience as it would be obviously if the cards were in much better condition. So generally that's probably the main downside to what we're seeing. I want to kind of also then mention that, as I said, the UPCs will be coming out on the 6th of October, a little later, almost 2 weeks later, or 2 weeks later than the other products. In terms of the UPC and how I perceive, you know, what they'll do, obviously initially there's going to be a lot of hype. Can't imagine it's going to be as bad as it was for a lot of product during the obviously pandemic. Nothing's really as bad, and will be as bad as it was then, apart from Japan and Japanese product we've seen at least the last few months. But we saw Pokemon did a really good job of printing an extortionate amount of the Charizard UPC. I'm not expecting this 151 UPC to be anywhere near that, because Pokemon at the time were like fully focused on printing that one specific UPC product and nothing else, because it was just so popular. Whereas this is not the case. They've got other products to print. Maybe I guess the primary or the one they're going to focus on the most is going to be the UPC, but it's certainly not the only product like the Charizard UPC was. And what have we seen from the Charizard UPC? I opened a box on my channel, and it was alright. You get a good variety of packs, which was nice. Certainly get a good taste of pretty much everything across Sword and Shield at the time. The UPCs I like. The problem was, again, the quality was just absolutely abysmal and really kind of tainted that. I haven't actually, mine I believe are still sealed, just because I can see from the back that the quality is just as ridiculously poor, so it's not even worth opening for me. So I've left that sealed. But in terms of the actual UPC, you know, for those who are picking up product to hold on to, it's obviously not moved a single bit since then. And you know, we're a decent amount of time past that, and I imagine something similar will happen for the 151 UPC. I can't imagine it's going to be too different. The demand's certainly there, if not going to exceed the Charizard UPC. However, I'm probably not going to get printed as much. That Charizard UPC product just seemed to be infinite. Just seemed to be an infinite amount of that product available all the time, which really floored the price, and will probably continue doing so for quite some time. I've got to, the thing is, I have a decent number of them myself. I believe I have probably they came in like a case of 4, and I probably have 3 or 4 cases, so it's not like I don't have a decent amount of those Charizard UPCs. Just don't think they're going to do anything anytime soon, and I imagine it's going to be similar for 151 UPC. Generally, just think, yeah, maybe just enjoy the set. If you're someone who just, you know, enjoys ripping up the newest set and maybe putting a binder together like I will, and if you're someone who wants to find the best sealed product to invest in, maybe go for buy a couple of UPCs, but I wouldn't be confident in buying too many. As I said, just sat on dead product for a few years. Like Evolutions was before 2020, and obviously people like to ignore the fact that it was a $90 booster box, and it was even cheaper basically up until 2020, before the crazy Pokemon hype. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to kind of talk about with 151. Still excited, certainly excited still for the release. Let me know what you guys think. What are you going to be doing? You're going to be picking up a lot of products to open, and you're going to be trying to complete the binder set like I am, at least of the the illustration rares. I don't particularly care for I might pick up the ultra rares, but I don't particularly care for the commons and uncommons when it comes to collecting the specialty sets, because obviously they have like the shiny vault, right? They have the special part of the set, which is the most collectible for me. Disappointment again with the master balls. Fortunately, not too much you can do about that, but yeah, otherwise let me know what you guys are thinking, what you're going to do when it comes to 151. How do we think we're going to be looking back at the Japanese product, I guess, in, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks time? From when I made my previous video a couple of weeks ago, if anything the price has gone up, and obviously I said when the English product comes out, I'd expect the price to come down. So far that's not looking to be the case, but hopefully, kind of 22nd comes around and all the hype just bursts that day when everyone's got their hands on the product, when it's just available everywhere and everyone has the ability to just pick up the product easily at a good price. It's just going to mean less eyes on the Japanese product, and hopefully that price will come down. We'll obviously wait and see what happens there, but yeah, as I said, that's pretty much everything on 151. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next